Hi, I'm Bry Cox, BryCoxWORKSHOPS.com. I've got my buddy here, Bryan Welsh.
Yeah, I'm Bryan Welsh. I'm a commercial photographer from Portland, Oregon.
We actually just did an event together and we thought, hey, let's make some videos, particularly because every time we get together, we talk about what we're reading. Here's a little stack that I'm working on right now. I'm going to set it down here for a sec. But let's talk a little bit just about constant reading because, right off the bat, the average American reads less than a book a year. And yet the most successful people read usually at least one book a month, if not a couple books a month.
Exactly.
And it's so much easier now with audiobooks.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of the Audible app. When I'm in the car, I'm not just listening to the radio and a bunch of commercials. I'm always listening to not only a podcast, but to a lot of good books that really give me knowledge, insight, not only ideas, but really how to show up in the world. I think that that's an important thing. And I know when you talk about some of your books, that's one of the things that you look for in a good book.
Yeah, so for me, I've got a few subjects. I'm always reading something on business, something that's going to give me some ideas and help me in my business. But it's also a lot of books on, so I'm a religious person, there's always books on, some aspect of religion. And what I'm looking for specifically is wisdom, right? The difference between, say, just intellect and wisdom, to be able to see the world with the right set of glasses. And then also there's just people who I just think are brilliant and I want to think like them. I don't just want to read and get the basic info. I want to program my mind to actually think like those kinds of people.
Yeah.
So those kind of people, like Dave Ramsey's one that many, many years ago, I was like, this is good stuff. I'm going to read everything he's got over and over and over, and just so that I can think in the same way.
Yeah, I have three that I kind of want to highlight.
Yeah, let's hear.
So one book that I've read multiple times, and everybody that I've mentioned it to that's read it has loved it. It's a book called Essentialism by McKeown, and it's really this idea of how to do better with less.
Okay.
Right? So better with less. And it's not just about minimalism and taking everything out of your house, but it does go into how to think, how to be. And it has so many great applications. So that's the first one I want to mention. The next one is by Donald Miller, and it's Building a Story Brand.
Okay.
And he's a really smart person who realized in his screenwriting and doing some different things, his buddies basically said there are three principles to a movie, and every movie follows kind of the same script. There's a hero who comes against adversity, and a trusted guide comes along, and they solve the problem.
Yep. And
so one of the things that photographers or any business person does a lot of times is makes themselves the hero.
Okay.
And instead, we need to make our clients, our customers, the hero, and we're the trusted guide that comes along and helps them solve their problem. And so he breaks it down super simple into, if you confuse, you lose.
Yep.
And I just love
of business people say
simplicity of it, right?
Yep.
So that is a fantastic book. It's a good read. And then the third book, and one that I'm really into right now, is by Phil M. Jones. And the book is Exactly What to Say. And I think he does a really good job of training a person to think about the things they say. And I won't do it justice, but I'll try a little bit. But he kind of does this thing to prove a point where he's kind of like, well, I could, or I should, and I might, and I don't know. Well, that doesn't communicate well, right?
Right, and he does that on purpose
Exactly.
to point out that idea.
Instead of saying, that's a really thoughtful question, here's my answer, and he goes into it much better than I do. But Exactly What to Say, it's a super quick read, but I think I've read it now maybe 3, 4, 5 times. I watch his videos, and so those three people right there, McKeown, Donald Miller, and Phil M. Jones, are kind of my top three. But, Bry's got his stack there, but I have Audible books that go and go and go, and these are just the ones on my device, let alone everything that's in my library. So I figure whenever somebody says, oh, I hate traffic,
yep,
I'm like, this is my time to educate myself.
Yeah, I haven't listened to the radio in I don't know how many years.
Right.
Yeah, it's always something else. And I actually do listen to some as audiobooks. I actually really like real books. And if I am really enjoying it, I'll also buy it as an audiobook.
That's a good point.
And then I kind of jump back and forth. I just like books for some reason. But here's a couple that I finished recently and really like. So like Michael Medved is one of my favorites because he went to Yale at 16.
Nice.
And he has an encyclopedic mind. He has a radio show where he doesn't use notes and he just engages with people. But what I like is he's a real historian, and he has some real fascinating just ways of looking at, I don't know, history and what I would consider wisdom. And so this American Miracle was a fascinating, great. I actually bought a bunch of these for gifts for Christmas for last.
Nice.
And then his wife, about 3/4 through this, is called Don't Divorce. And I'm not married. I haven't been married. It's not even written for me. It's written for people who are thinking about maybe divorce is a good idea and is saying, no, don't. But just because I like how their family thinks, I want to think more like that. And it's been, I think it's given me a lot of ideas for just relationships in general. When we were at Imaging just a few months back in Nashville, I used to live there. And one of my favorite things to do is to drop into the Dave Ramsey studio and just look through the glass, say hi, see what's in the bookstore that I haven't already purchased. And so I found 3 books, and I haven't started these ones yet. These are on my stack to start. And the funny thing is I buy books faster. I got more stacks upstairs that are in my next stack, right? But these are in my next stack. So I've got his daughter, Rachel Cruze. It's a book on money. Love Your Life, Not Theirs, right? 7 Habits for Money Management. Sounds great to me. This one called Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters. Hadn't read it, hadn't seen before. Figure he recommends it. Just buy it.
Should be good.
Yeah, just buy it. And then Tribes by Seth Godin. Famous book, but I haven't read it.
Yeah.
And it looks like super small. Like that's like maybe an afternoon or maybe even a 2-day read.
I'm a huge fan of Seth Godin. I have his books as well.
Yeah.
And he's brilliant. He says a lot with very little. So, yeah, quick read.
Yeah.
Really good book.
So, a lot of these are just, if I like this person and they like these things, let's dive into some of those, read some of those things. And then I'll just show you, though we won't get into all this, but this is my current reading right now. And I am through almost all of these, at least half or big chunks.
Nice.
And this is all, for the most part, Old Testament and Jewish stuff, including like stuff from my favorite rabbi from Montreal. So I'm not Jewish, but I just really enjoy Old Testament and particularly Midrash stuff. And this is actually Michael Medved's father, who's passed away, but he was a physicist.
Nice.
But he also memorized the entire Old Testament, or the whole Torah in Hebrew.
Wow.
And so this is a science kind of description of the creation story, which is one of my favorite things. So I was like, I would never have found this had I not been a fan of Michael Medved. But I think the biggest point here is to always be learning. Again, as we started off saying, like the average American reads, sadly, less than a book a year.
Yeah.
And one study actually was averaging emails and web browsing to try to get that to nearly a book a year, which is sad because that's not information.
No.
That's just garbage.
Yeah.
But the average, successful person reads a lot. And I like to think about Abraham Lincoln, who is arguably probably the absolute best American and had very little education, but all self-taught. Walked to the library, had this very limited library, picking out very specific books. And today we have literally everything at our fingertips, and yet where are the Lincolns? Right? So we have way more information than he had in his day, but in the end, we have so much, we're not using what's actually good. We're almost like watered down by all the garbage information.
Yeah.
And we need to filter that out, seek out great stuff that's going to help us. And my areas are either personal improvement, that'd be like things like wisdom and religion and things, business, all that kind of stuff, kind of break those up, jump through some different categories. Yeah. And always be working on just being smarter and better.
I think that's also the key is do something. Move forward, always be thinking. There is so much great information out there, and I'm a huge proponent of that. So, it'd be fun if there was a way to interact and find out what our audience's books are reading right now and share some of your ideas. We could make a 4-hour video on books.
Yeah.
But let's engage offline and get some conversation going. And
sounds good.
And maybe we'll do another video, some book reviews. That might be something.
It'd be great.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, and until next time, America.
Take care.